meeting to order. If you would join me to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This being our second meeting of the day, I want to make a brief but cordial welcome to all of you, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend this school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. Not seeing any visitors with us, I think we can move on. And I would like to call Dr. Legutko to the podium, please, to start the program.
Good afternoon, everyone. You guys have the PowerPoint presentation in front of you. We will go over each page within the PowerPoint. Of course, you've heard this last week. The same information is going to be presented as we go through the first public hearing and for the adoption of the millage and the approval of our 2021-2022 tentative budget. So let's begin. Oh, wait, I have to move this. Hold on. This is kind of, excuse me. Okay, as part of my presentation, I am required to provide you all with a timeline of how the budget has been prepared. Of course, we talked about from 1 through 7 is our typical standard planning of the budget. And then July 1 starts our trim process, truth and millage, where we set the millage rate for a required local effort. We are in item number 11. Last week we met and we approved the advertisement in the local newspaper to identify how much that millage is going to be and how much dollars, the amount of dollars that we will raise in order to participate in the FEFP program. So at this point, we are in item number 11 of TRIM, which is the public hearing to approve the tentative budget. The next meeting will be on September 9th, which will be the public hearing to approve our final budget. Because between now and by September 9th, there will be some changes to our numbers. We're still closing the school year, the prior year, so those adjustments will be made, rolled forward into the new year, and any modifications will be presented to you at that time. Okay. So, of course, what is the purpose of this meeting? This meeting is to approve the tentative budget and the millage that was approved, that was advertised in the newspaper. This is so loud. Am I too loud? I'll stand. Okay, that's better. All right. Next slide. This is just a picture of the advertisement. The last meeting, you saw the actual advertisement that was being placed in the newspaper. It appeared on July 22nd, the Clay Today publication. What you saw in the newspaper was the total summary budget, the approval, the notice of proposed tax increase, and of course, the listing of the projects that will be supported by the 1.5 mil. So that's just one page of the 3-page that appeared in the newspaper. Okay. Next slide. This is a 22-year summary of our assessment values and our millage rate. It's a historical view from 2000, 2001 to 2021, 22. You can see, of course, our millage rate back then was about 6.1. It's gone down to 3, it's cut in half, 3.527. So it's dropped over the years. However, the property values have gone up, hence the increase in the total dollars generated. Okay, so our proposed millage levy for 21-22 will be required local effort, which we are required to levy, is 3.527. That will generate $50,766,730. Our basic discretionary is 0.748. Will generate 10.766,519. Our capital outlay dollars, which is generated with the 1.5 mil, will generate $21,596,140. The additional voted millage, 1.0, will generate $14,393,742. Total millage is 6.775, and that will generate $97,517,605. This millage is about 2.5% above the required local effort. And again, I'm saying, in order for the district to participate in the FEFP, which is the Florida Education Finance Program, we must, as a local school district, levy, or a taxing agency, we must levy the 6.775 millage to produce the $97,517,605. This will allow us to participate in the FEFP and draw down about $236,593,590. That's about 71% of our total budget.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You're explaining it perfectly, but could you just go a little further and explain that if we don't levy that, we lose our funding?
That's exactly right. If we are required, that's again RLE, required local effort. It is required for us to levy the amount, the millage that's being presented today, in order for us to participate in the FEFP. Every school district in the state of Florida, according to our statute, we are required to generate local dollars in order to participate in receiving state dollars. So, and as you can see, our percentage, we're generating about 29% of our total budget, and the state is going to provide us with about 71% of those dollars. This is a summary of a comparison of last year's millage compared to this year. As you can see, the $13 billion was last year's property values. This year it went up by about $850 million. So it went to $14,393,000,000. So again, if your property values had stayed the same value, your tax bill would show a decrease of about $11.40. However, your value went up, so therefore your taxes will increase. Okay. So again, the rollback rate. What is the rollback rate? And I'm just going to say the first few sentences. It's the millage rate for the new year, which would produce the same level of ad valorem tax revenue as was levied in the prior year. Of course, there are some adjustments that impact the final calculation, but the percentage, the actual rollback rate, the percentage is 2.5%. No, correction. Our current millage rate is 2.5% above the rollback rate. And it's a complicated formula, so I can't really explain it to you right now. I mean, you know, I could explain it if you do want to, but I'm saying rollback rate is 2.5% above our current. Our current rate is 2.5% of of our rollback rate. Oh, I'm so sorry. Gosh. Okay. All right. Let's just get into the budget. All right. Again, our budget consists of several funds, and of course, you saw the summary budget, which has general, federal, debt service, and capital outlay. Those are the four primary funds that make up our budget. Of course, the largest fund is our general fund. So I'm going to go into the general fund budget, revenues, and expenditures. Okay. Our revenue, again, is about total $312,944,040. That represents the general fund portion of our budget, of the revenue. You can see that the state portion is about 76%, which is the largest amount that makes up the entire budget. Our local is about 63 million, which is 21% of the total budget. The 7 million, which is 2%, that's transfers from other funds. And then our federal is about 3.6 million, which represents 1% of the total budget. This is what makes up the majority of our revenues. You've got local, state, and federal. Local represents the property tax, the required local effort, that portion that we talked about, where it generates about $58 million compared to last year, which we generated $56 million. That was a little above the 96% that we are required to budget for. So total revenue is going to be about $63.9 million. State revenue, the FEFP, you can see it's going to be about $199,788,388. Wow, all those eights. Again, those are all the different categoricals that we receive from the state as well. The difference between last year and this year, of course, is our class size funding. That dropped about $3.5 million. The reason for the drop was that there was a calculation error on the part of the state, and of course they had to make the adjustment. The calculation error was not in our favor. They indicated that they've been overfunding the school districts for class size. So again, total state revenue is $238,341,269. Federal revenues, there's a little bit of federal that do come into our general fund, which is about $3.6 million. So our total revenue is about $305,941,040.
Could you tell me how much we actually received lottery money?
Lottery, that's school recognition, part of that. We do not receive that, yes. So, and I left it there because of the prior years, so that we can see we're not receiving it. Okay, what makes up our transfer? Again, it's the maintenance, capital projects, project manager salary. It's about $4.8 million. We've got some insurance loss recovery that we recognize it in our transfers. Sale of land and equipment is about 120. We received about 119 last year. And you know about the 1 mill, where we do transfer about $2 million to help with the health insurance program. And the capital lease and expense, that $10 million was the bus lease that we paid for in 2019-20. So our total transfer is about $7 million, making our total revenue and other sources of $312,944,040. Keep in mind the state and local revenue, the required local revenue, it is all computed based on our projections, our FTE projections. So, okay, now we'll go into our general fund expenditures. Okay, so, okay. This is the category of how we report on our expenditures. It is by function and object group. So I wanted to explain what each function represents. So you'll see that function code, anything under the 5,000 represents instruction. Anything under 6,000 is also instruction, but it's categorized as instructional support. And you'll see later on where how you can identify direct instruction and the instructional support. Okay, here we go. So you can see the 5,000, that's instruction, which is all our classrooms, everything in our classrooms, all of the expenditures, salaries, benefits, supplies, contracts, everything that deals with the classroom. It is categorized under 5,000. Of course, 6 student services all the way to 6,500 represents support in the classroom. So for 2021, the total budget for expenditures is about $324,024,740, and you can see the categories and the comparison between where we ended up last year compared to what we're projecting for next year. Okay, the next category. In order for us to even identify, not only do we identify at the function level, we have to even go further for transparency purposes so that they can identify specifically how those funds are being spent. What are they being spent on? What categories? So again, we are required to now account for those types of expenditures under the specific codes. Object code 100, anything under 100 represents salaries. So our teachers are under 120. Our coaches 130. Our administrators 110. So, there is a structure of reporting that we are required to keep. So here you can see how the comparison for what we spent last year compared to what we're projecting for next year. So for salaries, we spent $191,837,011. Of course, we're projecting about $194,086,741. Our benefits, we spent about $60.9 million. We anticipate spending approximately $62.2 million. Combined, it's about 79% of our total budget in the general fund. The other areas, of course, purchase services, energy, materials and supplies. You can see where we've spent, how much we've actually spent as of today, and what we're anticipating for spending in the upcoming year. You will notice materials and supplies, it's $6 million compared to $13.9 million. The reason for that increase is we have an adoption that's coming up. So again, it will increase because of that adoption. It's very expensive. So our total, again, this would match with all our the total budget of $324,024,740 in expenditures. This is just a pictorial view of our general fund, what makes up our general fund expenditures. And again, salaries and benefits make up the larger portion of the budget. Okay, bottom line, where did we end up at the end of June 30th, 2021? Our beginning fund balance from the prior year, we rolled in about $34 million. We're expecting we did receive about $303 million in 2020, 2021. We expended about $305 million, $305,474,509. So when you look at overall, we expended what we brought in as fund balance, what our revenue is. It's simple math. Beginning fund balance, total revenues brought in, less our expenditures, that's our fund balance, bottom line. So we ended up with about $36.8 million in fund balance. Of that, 15.1 is unreserved. The rest of it represents contracts, I mean, not contracts, projects, and any of restricted dollars that's not free for me to place elsewhere. So we ended up with a 5% fund balance. So moving forward, projecting, we're going to move the fund balance to the beginning school year. Projected revenue is going to be about $305,941,040. We're expecting to spend $324,024,740. So, and with our transfers in, we're projecting to end our fund balance with about $25.7 million. And again, keeping us unassigned at about 5%. I'm going to move on. This is just a little picture of the historical of our fund balance and where we were and where we're headed. Okay. Now, part of our general fund, and in the advertisement, the general fund 105, the 1 mil, was included in the overall general fund budget in the advertisement. But now I'm going to actually break that out so you can see how our 1 mil, the voted 1 mil, and how it was spent. Oops, I think I went too far. Okay, like the general fund, we are required to account for them in the function and object method. So therefore, you can see we spent most of the funds in the operation of plants, which represents our police department. And then we did spend some in our facilities and acquisition, which is safety and security of our schools, the capital portion of it. So we spent about 5.9. Of course, we rolled, and you'll see later on where I rolled some of the mill that was collected into fund balance. And we're projecting, of course, to spend about $5 million in facilities, safety and security of our buildings, and $5.1 million for our police department, police and guardian program. So we're expecting to spend the $10.3 million. It's a projection, it's a budget, so. Okay, this represents it at the object level, where we are, for salaries and benefits, we're spending about $4.2 million for salaries and benefits. Purchase services, energy, the same type of expenditures in the general fund. Of course, capital outlay, which represents the facilities portion, is about 5.3. So we're projecting to spend $10.3 million out of the mill. Pictorial view, 51% represents the salaries, the safety and security of our schools. Salaries is about 29%. Employee benefits. So it's just a pictorial view on how those funds are going to be spent. The summary version, beginning fund balance is about $2.6 million. We expect to generate about, for 2021. The expectation is that we will receive about $12.7 million. Total funds available with the fund balance will be about 15.4. The expectation, we spent 5.9 in this previous fiscal year. So we ended up with about a 7.4 ending fund balance. We rolled it over to the 9.4. The 7 and the, the 9 million, there's the 2 million transfer, but it's all in the general fund. So the 9.4 was rolled into the new year. We're expecting about 13.8 million in revenues, less the 10 million. So we're expecting to have a fund balance of about 10.9. Again, this is still a budget. So those numbers could change at the end of the year. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Okay, here's another picture of how we actually spent the dollars in the categories. The school police salaries and benefits was about $3.4 million. The operational expenditures was about $1 million. The Guardian program, $592 for salaries and benefits, $121,000 for expenditures. School safety and facilities, $5.1 million. The transfer to general fund, the $2 million, represent the $12.3 million. Okay. All right, that ends the general fund and the 1 mil. So I'm going to go into the debt service and the other funds, and we'll go through this pretty quickly since you've heard this already. All right, so our debt service funds. As you know, summary, beginning debt service, of course, is our debt service, exactly what it is. It is the fund that's used to pay off our debt. We have several bonds that are out there. So this is just a summary page where our total beginning fund balance, again, the beginning fund balance, the dollars that we receive for debt it comes from the 1.5 mil. So those dollars are transferred into this fund in order to pay our debt annually. We pay it twice a year. But we do receive some funds from the state. So that's where that fund balance comes in. So we started with about $437,791 in fund balance. We will receive about $282,000 in revenues from the state. The other financing sources, which is really our transfer, will be about 6.8 coming from the 1.5 mil. So our expenditures is going to be about $7 million. So at the end, our ending fund balance will remain about the same, about $446,000 sitting in that account. And again, 6.8 of the 1.5 mil will be transferred into the debt service to pay our debt. This is a summary of our total debt. Again, it talks about our original principal and how much we've got remaining, and of course, what our annual total amount will be. So we have our SBE bonds, which is a state bond, and then the racetrack bonds, which, those are going to be, our SBE bond will be pretty much finished very soon, paid off very soon. Racetrack bond, we've got, our payment is about $215,999. Again, the state sends us those dollars because the state bonds money on behalf of the school district. So it's more of a paper entry that we are required to keep on our books, recognize it. Our main debt, though, are our COPS issue, which we've got 3, 2017, 2012, 2014. And you can see what our original and what our annual payments are, and the interest. So our total COPS is about $5.1 million. And of course, in 2019, we have a bus lease, a 5-year bus lease, and of course, the annual payment is $1.6 million.
Would you explain what COP stands for so people don't think we're spending that on our police force?
Oh, it's Certificate of Participation. I apologize. Yeah, Certificate of Participation. Yeah. Okay. So for our debt, we're projecting to spend about $7 million. Okay. Again, this is a summary of all of our debt. And it shows the total amount. We have about $44 million in debt, and our total debt, which is amazing, for a school district. So I'll move on.
I have a question, Dr. Legicka.
Yes.
The refinance was because of a better interest rate, is that correct?
Correct. And what we do is we do try to look each year. Mr. Ford and Associate, who is our financial advisor, we work closely with them, and they're monitoring our debt constantly to see if there are opportunities that we can reduce our interest rate more so than anything else. So when those opportunities arise, we take advantage of it. So yes, the refinancing was as a result of reduction in interest rates. Okay. All right. Again, this is a pictorial view of our principal and interest and what we've actually have left to pay. And COP, they are again, Certificate of Participation, not COPS. All right, we'll go into the capital projects. Okay, so for our capital projects, it makes up the 1.5 mil CONDS, which is capital outlay and debt service. And it explains, it gives a explanation as to what those funds represent. PICO, there's a line across it because we lost it in 2019, 2020. So the school district does not receive those funds. Believe it or not, those funds were used for maintenance. So we lost money, so we have less money going into our maintenance. We don't have that much anymore.
Where do the PICO funds go now?
They go, I believe they are now directed to charter schools. And now we have the local sales tax and, of course, our impact fees. Okay. All right, so for projection purposes, and you know, another thing that's really impacting our budget this year is the interest. It has dropped so significantly. We're getting like 0.003% on our dollars now. So it's really, you can see the difference in what we were collecting in 2019, even back in the general fund where it's the larger budget. The amount that we're receiving in our interest on investment is just really very low. So you can see the comparison from 2019 to 20 to current to proposed. And, you know, it's cutting significantly. Our property tax, that number represents our 1.5 mil and tax redemption. So that's local dollars. The sales tax, we're projecting to collect $14 million. And impact fees, about $9.5 million. Total revenue, about $43.7 million in local revenue. State revenue, CONDS, about 1.2. Interest on the CONDS, it's down about 25,000. Our charter school, a capital outlay, is about 796. I want to explain that line to you. That line is really more of a flow-through. It's money that goes directly to the charters. We are required to recognize it here in our budget, and then, of course, it automatically just transfers into and paid to the charter schools. So the miscellaneous is about 46.5, and, of course, our total state revenue is about 2.1 million, making up a total revenue of $45.9 million. How are we spending the capital dollars? Okay, here is a pictorial view of it. Building and fixed equipment, about 42.8. Furniture and fixtures, 556. Motor vehicles, 327,000. Land improvement, 1.6. Improvement other than buildings, 4 million. Remodeling and renovations, 24.9. Computer software, about 1.2. And debt service, 112,320. That debt service there is really fees that we are responsible for. You'll see in another slide where there's a transfer. So the total is 75 million. What I do want to say is typically, if you compare what we spent in the prior year to the current, what we're proposing, we spent, 11.6. Typically what happens is that the projects that were advertised, every one of those projects have dollars assigned to it. So what we actually do is we budget out all the dollars, align it with the projects that we're anticipating that we will hopefully complete. Not all the projects get completed because of, the market and the different things that do arise. But that's why you're looking at our proposed budget, all of the dollars, and the prior year, it's actually what we spent or what we were able to accomplish because of either for whatever reason, okay? And you'll see when Bryce does her presentation, you'll see those projects identified in that presentation. Okay. All right, so where did we end up with the capital projects? At the end of 2021, we ended up with a fund balance about $47.5 million. As you can see, we rolled the $30 million from the prior year. Our revenues came in of about 39.9. We had about 69 million available. We only spent 11.6. And remember, COVID and all the things that were happening, we really wasn't able to do all our projects, complete all our projects. So we had about 58 million left over. The transfer into the other uses, which is general fund and debt service. So we ended up with a fund balance of about $47.5 million. And I've explained, the below that line represents what the other financing sources represented. So you can see we transferred about 4.4 million to the general fund. For debt service, we transferred about $6.8 million. And of course, we had the sale of equipment and assets. Those are those gov.deal where we sell some of our retiring properties in inventory. So gov.deal, yes. So for projection for 21-22, we're going to roll the fund balance to 47.5 into the new year. Our projection of revenue is about 45 million, giving us about 93 million. We're going to spend about 75 million, transfer out about 11. So we'll end up with our fund balance of 6.2. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get into the special revenue, which is Fund 400. And, oops, okay, yeah. So what makes up our special revenue? Okay, we've got our food and nutrition program, which is 410. Our special revenue, which is our contracted programs, such as Title I, Title II, Title III, IDEA, those types of programs, they are reported in that fund. Special revenue, elementary, secondary, emergency relief, ESSER, Fund 441. Special revenue, CARES Act Relief Fund 442. Special revenue, CRISA, ESSER 2, Fund 443. The last three we received as a result of COVID, and we are required to identify those funds with those specific numbers. The state has identified the numbers, and we are required to report. They are federal funds, and they do come with strings attached to them. So,
And they're not reoccurring, correct?
they are not reoccurring dollars. So I'll go into each one of these different funds. Okay, I'll start with our food service. Food service, again, it is exactly what it is. It's our food service program that supports our students in the classroom, in the schools, a food or lunch program. And you can see we receive our local revenue of 1.2 million. Federal revenues, we received about, we projected 1.2. State about 145,000, and federal revenues about $17.6 million. Last year, we received 18.8 million in federal, state 169,000, and local 1.3. Total revenue for last year was 20.3 million. Our projection is about $19 million. And you can see in 1920, it was 14.7 million. It was very low because I believe that's the end of COVID. And then last year we had all of COVID. And, Susie Glover, who runs the food service program, she did a phenomenal job, ensuring that we were funded for the program because it's amazing. I'm just surprised. It's very good. So again, going back to 20 million, 0.3 she received in revenue, and 19 we're projecting for next year. How are we spending it? We are going to spend about 18.9, and the biggest, of course, is salaries, benefits, and food and supplies. Naturally, it's our food service program, therefore the larger amount of expenditures will appear in food and supplies. So,
And Dr. Legecko, I understand this year all students will receive the lunch and the breakfast, is that correct?
all students will receive free breakfast and free lunch. Okay. All right, so where are we going to end up for next year? Beginning fund balance is about 6.5. Total revenues 19 million. Less appropriations about 18.9 million. We will have about 6.5 million in fund balance projecting. She ended up with 6.5 this year, June 30th. Her requirement is the federal lunch program requires that she maintains at least 3 months of operational expenditures. This is way above her 3 months of expenditures. So she's well above the requirement to meet that fund balance requirement. The prior year, of course, in 1920, you can see where we ended up very low. It was just below her fund balance requirements. So again, kudos to Susie. She did a very good job in overseeing the food program. All right. Next program is Federal Special Revenue Funds. It's our contracted programs where it's supplemental to our current general fund. It is our CTE program, Title II, IDEA, Title I, DODEA, Title III, Adult General, 21st Century, and other miscellaneous state. This is just a small list. These are typically what we are required to do is once we receive the award notification, that's when we recognize the funds. We cannot project. I can't say that I'm going to get X amount of dollars. The state actually tells me Clay County will receive X amount of dollars in Title I for next year. And when they actually tell us that information, that's when I can report it in our system. Okay, so we're going to receive about 15.9 million in the upcoming year. And you can see those are the different programs that we know of right now. How are we spending it? This is, by function, you'll see that we're spending the majority of our dollars in the classroom. It is supplemental and it is to support our classroom programs. IDEA, our students with disabilities. Title I, our Title I schools. So, and it's, you can see where most of it, like I said, is in the instructional program or instructional support. The Pupil Transportation is actually Title I, where we do, and IDEA, where we do have, we are required by law to transport, especially in IDEA, transport some of the kids to and from their location, their school location. So the total is about $15.9 million as of right now. and further deep dive into how we're spending, how the categories of how they're being spent. You can see it is mainly spent in salaries and benefits. Some purchase services, which represents contracts. The energy service, it's gasoline, fuel, materials and supplies. Capital outlay, which really is computers.
What's the reason for the large increase in energy services there?
Gasoline, the gas prices.
From 4,000 to 400,000?
Oh, I see.
That's a big increase.
Well, remember, we're using our CARES funds. Well, wait, hold on. No. 425, hold on. I'm sorry. Should have that. What is it?
Yeah.
Federal.
Yeah, it's a big decrease in the capital outlay. You're
Right.
right, the 1.9 down to 474,000.
Yes, but why energy services? I don't have it in front of me. I'll have to get back with you on it.
All right, thank you.
I apologize, I don't have.
And Dr. Legecko, I have a question. I'm sorry, you were faster than I was. If you go back to page 42, 2 slides back, I think, I have a question about the 21st century schools. I know at one time, I mean, that, has decreased throughout, but I guess we still are getting funds for that. That's an after-school program, correct?
That is correct, yes. It is an after-school program.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And, these federal programs, they're all reimbursement type programs. So it's not, once you expend we expend the funds first, and then the state or the federal program will reimburse us. So-
There is if you look at page 43, the Pupil Transportation accounts for that increase in energy services.
400,000 worth?
It is listed as Pupil Transportation. Would that have anything to do with the leasing of the buses? No,
No,
because that would be under the debt service.
right,
Okay.
yeah.
But that's,
There is a reason for it, I just have to find out what it is.
Could it be that
but that's where that number is in the
Yeah.
are we running more routes possibly?
fund,
With
not-
the-
Yeah,
that many.
That's
I
an
can't
awful
imagine.
large increase, though,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
9,000 to 476,000.
But if it's over a school year,
That's a large increase, though. I mean,
mhm.
from 9,000 the year before, or even if you went with the 2019-2020 year at 77,000.
well,
It's a
2020, 2021, we were
$400,000
virtual.
increase.
We were virtual schools, so we weren't transporting kids.
Could be.
Yeah, so that would explain the decrease for 2020, 2021. And then if we've added, which I know we all got the email, was it today or yesterday, about the additional transportation in Oakleaf with the roundabout situation?
Right.
I know that's a new route. There may be other
I
new
didn't get
routes.
that.
You didn't get that email?
Am I not in that email loop?
It's, yes, remember, I think we acknowledged before that you weren't getting all of those emails.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
Someone forwarded it to me.
okay. But that,
So you
I
think
would
that's
be,
what that is?
I think that's what that, I
It's
think
a
it would have to
shuttle
do
they're
with
providing.
Right.
bus routes, yeah.
Let
I'll
us know,
find the
Dr.
answer
Decker, 'cause that's
and
just a
get back with you.
huge,
I'll
huge
send an email
change.
to each of you so that you'll know
it's
the
large.
difference. There's a reason for it, because a lot of these these are all applications, and they are submitted to the state for approval. And they have requirements, certain criteria that's allowable and not allowable. So I know there's probably something written in the application.
And didn't we do additional pupil transportation for summer programs this year?
Yes,
That
yes.
was in addition and something we haven't done
Right.
before as well, so.
Oh, yes, and I thought that was it, but it's really, I use the CRISA funds to support the transportation, and you'll see that in there.
Right.
Okay. So you're not seeing a fund balance here is because it's a reimbursement program, so we're not allowed to have any funds available. It's, the general fund typically pays for everything and then gets reimbursed. All right, now we'll get to the CRISA CARES Act Relief Program. We did receive quite a bit of dollars this past year, and this chart really represents the total funds that we received. We received about $12.5 million over the course of last year and, of course, this year. We have CARES Act ESSA-1, CARES Act GEARS, the Summer Recovery Program. We have CARES Act Best High Quality Curriculum, and all of these are specific to the title. The large ones were, of course, the CARES Act ESSA-1, where we were able to use those dollars for a lot of our COVID expenditures to carry us through last year. And then the next one we received was the CRISA Act ESSA-2 Advance. That was about $7.3 million. But look at the timeline. We had to spend, or have to spend, those funds, $7.3 million, starting from March. It wasn't approved until, we didn't receive it till July 1, really. But they backdated it to March 25th, 2021, and I have till September 1 of 2021 to spend $7.3 million.
I know you can do it. We know you can do it.
We have lists.
I'm telling you.
Well, and it's earmarked only for specific things, too.
That's
though,
correct.
So it's categoricals there.
Yes, well, it's the 12 categories that was identified in the CARES Act ESSA-1. So it's pretty much those types of activities. So you can see we did start spending it. In 2021, we only spent, well, not only, we spent all of it pretty much, 5.6 of the ESSA-1 and all of the other programs where we did receive funding, like the Summer Recovery Program. We definitely did our summer program. So we spent about $5.6 million. We do have about $6.8 million, of which will be spent by the end of those deadlines. And the description of what they represent is on the very bottom where it says CARES, GEARS, and CRISA. All right, so how did we spend the $5.6 million? You can see it's salaries and benefits, purchase services, materials and supplies, and a lot of capital outlay. The capital outlay represents the Chromebooks, trying to get online, virtual, trying to ensure that we were up to speed in educating our kids virtually. So, and then of course 2021, salaries and benefits, purchase services, capital outlay. So the $6.8 million, which is the difference between the two, will be spent in the upcoming year. Here is the functional picture of how we're spending those funds. And you can see the majority of those funds are spent in the instructional side. Again, a summary of how total revenues and what we're projecting for next year, which makes up, if you add those two numbers, it makes up the total revenues that we were awarded by the state. And finally, our self-insurance fund, which is our 7-Eleven, it is part of our general fund, so it wasn't in the advertisement, but it is part of our budget. It is our internal revenue service fund, which provides the support for our self-insurance plans, for property and casualty. It doesn't include our group health, life, hospital, indemnity, short and long-term disability coverage, but that is also, that's our benefits, part of our benefits and salaries and benefits. It supports our excess property, our automobile liability, workers' comp, boiler and machinery insurance, errors and omission liability, workers' comp, self-insure, our assessments, student catastrophic excess medical insurance for sports program, and student accident. These are the plans that we are required as an organization to maintain, and because we're self-insured for our workers' comp program, we are workers' comp, you know. What I mean by that is that if an employee gets hurt, the medical bills, we are paying for that medical bill. We are the hospital. We are the doctors. It's direct, so it's costly. So our self-insurance program, our operating revenues is about $2 million. That comes from the workers' comp part of the benefits to pay for our liability insurance, as well as the claims that we are responsible for. So our total revenue is about $2.2 million. Our operating expenditures is about 3.4, and that includes the liability insurance and, of course, our claims. We're getting about $10,000. We're projecting about $10,000 for our interest income. And so over the years, of course, we've tried to maintain a steady balance so that we can support our claims. And that $6.6 million is our asset, beginning asset. Our total ending asset will be about $5.1 million. That is required as a result of our actuary report. Annually we do get, because we're self-insured, we are required to have an assessment of our program. And this is done by an actuary. And he or the company provides us with the amount of dollars that we are supposed to maintain as a fund balance in order to ensure that we can pay our claims. So it's $5.1 million. Almost done. Okay, so I would say our total budget is, let me read this, I wrote this. Our total budget of $520,446,656, it's over $500 million, right? Yes, $500 million, is presented as required by Florida Statute 1011.02 and 1011.051, and of course in accordance with TRIM, Truth and Millage. It is organized and presented in a manner aligned with the Department of Education Chart of Accounts. It is a budget that represents, number one, fiscal efficiency and transparency. It is maximizing our scarce resources. It is stretching our human capital, and it is a balanced budget. So with that, our next steps are to adopt the millage rate and approve the tentative budget, and to set the final public hearing for September 9, 2021, to adopt the final millage and the budget for 2021-2022. Thank you.
Well done, Dr. Legutko. Nicely done. Thank you very, very much for that. I don't know how you keep all of these balls juggling, but you do a spectacular job of it.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to open the public hearing for comments on the 2021-2022 budget and millages. Seeing no one coming to the podium, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 required local effort millage levy.
Before we do that, are we supposed to do the facilities plan? That hasn't been reviewed yet.
That's not coming until after we do all of these. This all relates to the budget, and then we do the facilities plan.
All right.
That's how it is on the agenda.
I'm sorry. We'll see the facilities plan first.
No, the facilities plan's at the bottom.
It's at the end.
Is at the end. So that, okay. That's what I thought. That's,
You're good.
just wanted to double check. Both. I've got two different pieces of papers. Yes, I have two different pieces of paper, so.
Normally, don't we do both and then go through all the motions and do all the motions at one time, including the facilities plan? Yeah, we do. But we can do it this way, it's fine.
I-
It's just not how we, but it's
Okay.
fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I move that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed required local effort mill levy of 3.527 with a proposed amount to be raised of $50,766,730. The RLE millage includes basic RLE of 3.635 and a prior period adjustment millage of .006.
I second that.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the, to adopt the required local effort millage levy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 basic discretionary operating millage levy.
I make a motion that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed base discretionary millage of .748 with a proposed amount to be raised of $10,766,519.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion carries 5-0.
Is anybody able
We're-
to vote?
No.
wasn't.
It's, it shows Beth, Mrs. Clark, that you didn't vote? Okay, we'll just move on if we can.
Can you manually record it for us and we'll just continue? Okay, Mrs. Bull,
Okay, thank you.
restate the last one and what the.
Yes, yes. It has been moved and, I'm waiting for this to come up as well. It has been moved and seconded that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed base discretionary millage of .748 with a proposed amount to be raised of $10,766,519. We're
You had a motion by Mrs.
Ms. Bullock and a second by Ms. Karakas. I'm just looking at our screen and that's not up yet. That's why I was pausing.
She can,
Okay.
Yeah.
We voted, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just to make certain, thank you. It carried 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the local 2021-2022 Local Capital Improvement Fund millage levy.
I move that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed capital outlay millage of 1.500 with a proposed amount to be raised of $21,590,614.
I second it.
It has been moved by Ms. Karakas and seconded by Ms. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 additional voted operating millage levy.
I move that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed voted millage of 1.0 with a proposed amount to be raised of $14,393,742.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Ms. Clark, seconded by Ms. Gilhausen. All in favor, any discussion, sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 total millage levy.
I move that the Clay County School Board adopt the 2021-2022 final proposed total millage, which will equal 6.775, with a total amount to be raised of $97,517,605. The total millage rate to be levied is more than the rollback rate by 2.5%.
I second.
It has been moved by Ms. Gilhausen and seconded by Mrs. Bullock, not Mrs. Bola, sorry. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion carries 5-0. I will entertain a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 tentative budget, all funds, and set the public hearing for the 2021-2022 final budget Thursday, September 9th, 2021 at 5:01 p.m.
I move that the Clay County School Board adopt the tentative budget for the 2021-2022 school year as follows. General operating in the amount of $371,072,130. Special revenue budget in the amount of $48,343,262. Debt service budget in the amount of $7,525,805. Capital outlay budget in the amount of $93,505,459 for a total final budget of $520,446,656.
I'll second it.
It has been moved by Ms. Bullock and seconded by Mrs. Kerkis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for the resolution 2020-01 determining the 2021-2022 tentative millages.
I move approval of Resolution 22-01 determining the 2021-2022 tentative revenue and millage levied for the fiscal year 2021-2022.
I second it.
It's been moved by Ms. Kerkis and seconded by Ms. Clark to approve resolution number 22-01 determining the 2021-2022 tentative revenues and millages levied for fiscal year 2021-2022. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. And I will entertain resolution 22-01 determining the 2021-2022 tentative budget.
I move approval of Resolution 22-02, adopting the tentative 2021-2022 budget.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Ms. Clark and seconded by Ms. Gilhausen to approve resolution number 22-02, adopting the tentative 2021-2022 budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
A motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. And our next presentation, I believe, is Ms. Ellis, to discuss the tentative 2021-2022 through 2025-26. That just sounds really, really a long time from here, and it's only 5 years. Educational
it's not very
Facilities
long.
Plan.
Yes, so this is the EFP, as we call it, and it's prepared annually per Florida statutes. And it's comprised of 4 different parts, so we'll speak to those parts tonight. Capacity and growth, capital revenue, our EFP projects, and then transportation. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Mr. Fawcett to speak to the growth. And I know you guys have heard this a lot of times, but we'll go again.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Good evening, everyone. All right. There we go. There should be one more. It's not on. do anything. There we go. I got it now. Oh, cool. Okay. So this is just a cover sheet. It's really sort of the same one that we saw from before. I just pulled this piece off of here. We still are one of the fastest growing counties in Florida, really fueled by the construction of the First Coast Expressway. What I'm showing you here are some different numbers that you're looking at here, and one of the different numbers is over here. This is different from last year, and we're looking at the total number of students that are projected to be about 10,849. So that is a big, scary number to me.
Mr. Foster, when you're using your pointer, could you use it at that screen?
Absolutely. You can see the back of my
Oh, we
bald
can
head.
all, I mean, can see behind us.
All right, so what I was pointing to was right here. This number here is the big number that's scaring me a lot right now. And there's a couple of things that have happened, and I want to point those out to you that weren't really even on the drawing board last year, and then they've just kind of appeared. So every year, the state comes out to us with their what they call COFTE projections, and the COFTE is your capital outlay for full-time equivalent students, and that's the state's projection for new students or growth. And the state's formula for this is to basically look at the 3 years past. So they decide that 3 years past is the best predictor of future growth. Doesn't necessarily work for us, but it's close. So some things I do want to point out here, and if you look at this one here, we're going from physically school year 21-22 all the way to 25-26. And again, this is based on the Department of Education 621 COFTE numbers. And we throw these numbers into our spreadsheet, and then we produce this from here. If we're looking at some schools that I really want to point out is Discovery Oaks, as you can see, is we're starting to move into the red zone. I have two different colors here. One is yellow, which if you're looking at yellow, that's putting us over 100%. If it gets into the red zone, we have an interlocal agreement with Clay County, with Orange Park, with Keystone, and with Green Cove that the acceptable limit for a school is 110% capacity. So I've actually tried to fight that, and I brought it up between them and tried to bring it down to 100%, and it was turned down. Not by you, because it has to do with all the other municipalities. So at that point, when it gets over 110%, that's when we can start taking action against the developers and say, hey, you need to start paying up or providing land or whatever. The trigger point for that is 110% of capacity. I just want to make sure you
I
see
have a
that.
question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about this last night, and it got me thinking. I remember before being on the board, sitting here, and they were first doing school concurrency, where they
Yes,
had to
ma'am.
come up with, and that number at the time was set at 110%. This is the same,
Same number.
and that was like 2006 or 8.
Yes,
I can't
ma'am.
remember.
Right.
what.
And then when I started
So
going,
how would we go about changing it if we wanted to?
so I called a meeting for all the different municipalities and sat down with, at that time, it was the Planning Commission for the county, and they were on board with it, but some of the other municipalities were not on board with it. So we sat down with Orange Park, and it was during COVID, so we had to do a Zoom call. And I basically made a motion that I would like to go ahead and move this down to 100%, and I lost the vote.
So as a school board, do we have any authority to change that number?
We're one vote out of all the municipalities. So we're one vote out of Clay County, Green Cove.
But it
Keystone,
affects us the
one out of
most.
four.
Shouldn't we be
It
more than
affects
one
us the
vote?
most.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't see
Yes,
the
yeah.
logic in it.
One of the municipalities was quite frustrating to me because, and it wasn't Keystone, it was another one that absolutely had no growth. And I'm like, this really doesn't affect you. Can't you just give us 100% on this? And
Right.
Well, when was that vote taken?
so
think
it was
it was
during COVID. I
2000.
don't know the exact date, and I can find that information
But I
for
mean,
you.
what year? I
Oh,
mean,
it was last year
okay.
in
The
2020.
original one was, I want to say 2008, when
Right,
school
the interlocal.
concurrency.
So they do it every
came
year?
in.
They-
No, it's the wording is from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do it every month if I wanted to see if we could wear somebody down.
So what could we do as
Yeah,
a
let's-
board to
I think we ought to do that.
change this? Because the growth is coming. We're having issues already. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It, you know, it affects the builders in that they would have to, or the developers, that they would have to go ahead and enter into proportionate share mitigation, which we never really had done for the past couple of years, and we've done like 4. And because we've never been in this situation before.
But isn't that really just the impact fees up front instead of when the lights go on? I
It
mean, it's
is
the same
impact fees
amount of
upfront.
money that's being paid either way, and it's done in a much better fashion now than it was 4 years ago, where all the impact fees were collected up front. So it seems to me that
Well, that's,
we're the ones that are really struggling to put kids in seats and build schools and,
well, all the impact fees weren't collected up front. So this is for like an entire development. So if, let's say there's 100 homes in a development, and if we do a proportionate share, and I have no room for them, they would have to pay all their impact fees up front, which means when they go to plat, and when it goes, they would have to pony up that, you know, that $7 million right then and there. Whereas as they only pay their impact fees as they build a house.
right.
So, and when we do the impact fees up front, they pay them all, we basically have to give them credits, and then there's a voucher system, and they turn, Eagle Harbor's still doing one right now, that's been going on for years and years, and I probably
and
get
I-
4 or 5 vouchers every year for
I
that.
understand that. We don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the builders either, but, you know, we are the school district with, you know, 40-something thousand kids, and, you know, it just seems like we should have a little more control over that capacity number.
I always like to say growth is good for everybody but the school district.
Right. And I know you've brought it up several times, which has gotten me thinking, how do we go about changing that? So,
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep pushing it for it, because I really believe, you know, you can only put 10 pounds in a 10-pound bag, and we're trying to put 110 pounds in a 10-pound bag.
So who actually votes on that? The school district has a vote? Who else?
So the city managers, or the city managers,
So of Green Cove, middle, where?
it would be Lynn.
is it the
I'm
planning and
sorry, the
zoning?
Green Cove would be Mr. Kennedy.
Okay.
And for Orange Park, I'm not really sure who the mayor is right now, but they would be Lynn for Keystone. And we would get together and decide how we would do that. There's a whole procedure in the interlocal agreement. I'd be glad to share that with you if you'd like to see it. Okay.
We'll keep working on it.
I'm working on it. I'm
Thank
working
you.
on it. So again, remember, these are just the projections that the state has, and I don't always agree with them because they look behind. They're not looking at the growth. And that's what one of the frustration pieces that we had, especially when we built Discovery Oaks, was they weren't going to give us, the state was not going to give us the okay to build that school, because they'd say, well, your growth from 3 years doesn't show it. But I had to go ahead and show them all the developments that were coming in to go ahead and improve it. And they even went back to the county and said, hey, Foster, is he telling us the truth? So they had to go to the planning commission and show them all the growth that was coming in. And they finally gave us the okay for that school. And look at it where it is now. Look where it is now.
So with that 114% that they're projecting in 23-24, they're technically looking back
Yes.
at the growth that we've had in that area already,
And then they push it forward.
and then they push it forward.
Right.
So
So
if,
you're
let's
going to
say,
see in one other school where
Yes.
that doesn't, like if you look at Ridgeview Elementary, there
I
was
w-
some growth there,
yeah,
but that was further back, and then they keep progressing it
progressing
along.
that, because that's pretty much
And
built out.
it kind of
Yeah.
overlaps a little bit with Tynes's area, and so that's where it's a little bit of a spillover. And I've asked them about that. I said, how can you keep showing me Ridgeview growing? There's one big neighborhood in there, Somerset, that's going on there right now, and that's going to produce probably about 80 kids, but it's going to stop at some point. It's the size it is.
Mr. Fawcett, did Discovery Oaks open up at 83%? Was that
Discovery,
80-something?
Discovery Oaks opened up, it was at 823. So whatever that percent is, 862 is the actual capacity of the school, and we opened up at 823,
So 90%?
about 90%, which is
I
like
thought it
2
was
off of what I said
80-something,
it was
and we
going
knew
to
that
do.
there'd be some growth.
Which there is. We had at Oakland Hill come in, and all of that one section that's south of, when you head out, you take a right and you go down there, connects right to where Tynes Boulevard is. Okay, so I just want to show you one school in particular, which is Lake Asbury. You can see how it grows, then it drops off. And the reason it's starting to drop off is because we have got School R approved. And since School R has been approved, and we have a state recommendation for it, it's been approved, you guys have approved it, that school is starting to absorb some of those students to take the pressure off of Lake Asbury and Patterson.
So why do you have Keystone Elementary circled for their fish capacity?
Because
It's
that,
896
the fish capacity, right there,
is the cafeteria.
no, that's how many seats there are in the school. That's the fish capacity.
Okay.
So when we do, when we look at two different capacities, and one of the capacities is the size of the cafeteria. If the cafeteria is smaller than the seats, I use the cafeteria. And the cafeteria, as you can see, is 823, smaller.
So that's at 110%, is that the number?
So actually, this number that I'm using is using the,
101%.
yes.
I see.
Sorry.
It changes.
It's a
We've heard
COVID year
three
too.
different numbers. We've
And it's a
heard
COVID year.
110,
I mean,
we've heard
you look at
83.
it. And every year, the COFD comes out, it's a little bit different.
Right.
And then we have to recalculate for 30 years.
Well, am I seeing this correct? Elementary R in the 25, 26 years projected at 102%?
Yep. Because there's all those numbers that I just showed you. Then that's the state's projection, not even looking at mine. So what I'm gonna do is move on to the next years. Okay. So this is the same thing. This is COFD, and man, I don't know how they can project this far out, but they're projecting all the way out to 2031, right in here. And again, I just want to show you what's happening to Discovery Oaks, growing, 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 growing. And what's not figured in here would be the potential of School A. This is my entry. I put that in there to show what that would look like. And it doesn't affect these numbers because those other numbers are part of an algorithm that feeds off of COFD. Those numbers here are just what I put in there. So and plus elementary school A is not approved, and it's really not part of the game. It's just a picture. It's in the future. Once that number does get in there, you'll see Discovery Oaks drop, and you'll also see part of Tynes drop because that would be sucking up some of that school attendance area.
So, and I see, I'm going back to Keystone just based on last night's meeting, but I see you have the cafeteria at 889, so that you're definitely planning on redoing a cafeteria. Is that what that 889 number is?
That's 896, right? Oh, the cafeteria right here, 823. I haven't put it in yet because this was before, because you guys are going to vote on the EFP. Once you vote on the EFP, I'll be able to
Right.
bump that number up. Because right now, it's not official. I can't add that
So-
cafeteria to it.
So you're, with the new cafeteria, it's 896, is that what you're projecting?
Whatever the size of this cafeteria is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
then the cafeteria is going to have to be bigger than this. Because
Right.
that's the number I'll use the seats.
That's the seat.
And that would change even too, because as we're looking at what we may do, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but part of the project that we'd like to do is add some classrooms to Keystone. So that fish capacity number would increase a little too.
So I have one more question before you move on.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you do the fish capacity and you're counting seats,
Mhm.
and I know this came up with Rideout Elementary a few years ago because their capacity was off because some of their classrooms were ESC classes that only housed maybe 4 kids, but the classroom is built for 21 students. Is that the same thing that's happening with Keystone, which is why last night you came out with 83% capacity based on seats, even though some of those classrooms might only be able to house 4 or 6 children?
No, not for the Keystone, because they're not a center like that. So we're certainly Copper Gate or even Lake Asbury Junior, they'll have a whole classroom that's supposed to have 25 kids in it, maybe 4 in there. So we can't change the fish capacity. Fish is fish. And that's why when I look at some of those numbers, I have to say, hey, we have to adjust this number. The principal will tell me all day long, Jim, you're telling me I have 20 seats. No, I don't. I know that, but Fish says you have it, and I can't change that.
Well, that's what my concern was about Keystone Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, of course, they have nowhere else to go other than Gray, which is a good 15 miles away,
Yes, ma'am.
so.
Yes, ma'am. And
Where the
McRae's right
others
up the
can
snuff
be-
there. And you see the McRae MRE,
Yeah, I know, it's already,
MRE, and McRae, sorry, right there. It's up there, going right along.
yeah, that's exactly right, so
Yep.
where do they go?
That's
my
right there.
question.
Much bigger.
I agree. Not saying it's not a challenge, because it is.
Thank you.
So what I want to show you here is this was the last entry we had, the last bastion of Focus. Now Focus we don't have anymore. So this was the last data that I got from Focus in May. And this is showing you where, this is what I call, for better word, boots on the ground. Oops, I went too far. This was the last Focus capacity chart. So if you're looking it down, and again, this is a COVID year. So if we're looking at Argyle, in May, they had 683 enrolled, their capacity 825, and then they're showing you what their percentage was all the way through. And I'm showing you all the schools here. I did make a note here that if we use a fish capacity here, we're at 89%. This is using the cafeteria capacity, puts them at 93 for Keystone. So when we get the right size cafeteria in there, you'll be able to use the actual fish capacity.
I understand you said these are the numbers from May, but on your last chart, you just had 896 for student population at
That's-
Keystone Elementary.
That's what the state gives me. And then this is the real, that's why I wanted to show you the difference between the real numbers and what the state gives me. And that's what's always confounding. We just came from the Florida Educational Facilities Planners Conference, and we were able to sit down with the director of facilities with the state and talk to her about these numbers. And she said, we're working on these kinds of things. And I'm like, it needs to reflect the real thing, because I have to go before my board and tell them these things, and the numbers sometimes don't jive. So they're working on these things, and that's the answer I get. And that's why I wanted to show you this, because I thought it was important that you see these numbers too. So here's the growth. You're very familiar with this. This is my tired old chart. I should probably do a better one with more colors and make it dance a little bit. But what I do want to show you is that since the last time we spoke, there's two new developments, 11 and 12, and that is Bradley Creek and Asbury Hammock. If you go down Russell Road and you drive right along Russell Road, you'll see these signs out, new homes starting in 2021. And this one here, which is at Bradley Creek, you'll definitely, they got the roads all built and everything. So this is another, this whole area, which really wasn't on the, sort of on the radar last year, really is exploding. And you can see right here, Lake Asbury is still to grow by 250 students by 2024. And it'll reach 110% capacity. Again, different from Coffey, because Coffey's looking behind. And I can go to the state and say, look, there's Lake Asbury Elementary. So you're telling me that all these guys aren't going to affect our growth? So yes, exactly. So we have 8 planned developments. Last time there was only, there was 2 less, so there would have been 6. School R to open 23-24. New growth at Patterson is at 154, but we're going to rezone a lot of those students to R, which is really going to help take the pressure off of Patterson, and it needs it. School R right now is going to already open at greater than 700 students. I already have reservations for over 700 students in School R. So when a developer comes to me, they go to the county first, and then the county goes ahead and sends me a letter asking for reservations. And I will look at the area and say, yes, they can do it, or no, they can't. So for School R, they were so happy to see this, because now I can't say I have no capacity. Well, you've got it. Your school board voted for it. You have capacity now. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't exist yet. Doesn't matter. It's already in your plan. It's going to happen. So we went ahead, and I have to write reservations for a school that doesn't exist yet. So they're already at 700.
Do you ever say no?
I do say no, but there's a remedy to that. And the remedy is they can go through proportionate share mitigation, where they pay us money. They can give us land. We have to maybe rezone. And they ask about that all the time. And I'm like, well, there's room over in Clay Hill. I'm like, really? We're going to send people from Keystone all the way to Clay Hill? Well, that's the way the law is written. But luckily, when they did write the interlocal agreement, they made sure that they don't go across county. They can only go to a contiguous school zone. So they can only go one next door, which I'm glad is in there. And I pulled that out and said, look, this supersedes what the state says.
So what are we getting from these 12 developments?
Well, what are we getting from them? We have right now we have 4 proportional, right now we have 4 proportionate share mitigation agreements. One of them for this one here, a proportionate share mitigation agreement for this guy here, which is about $9 million, which sounds like a lot, But after listening to Dr. Legut, that's just a drop in the
It's
bucket,
not, I know.
but, they complain about it because it's big bucks to them. So we get and their impact fees up front. We would get that money eventually, but it's impact fees up front.
Mr. Fossa,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
live out there, so I drive Sandridge all the time.
I'm sorry.
And I saw, I love my community. And I'm on the other side of the lake, so this development isn't really in my backyard. It's
Okay.
across the lake. But I don't see on your list Granary Park. And there's a sign for that one on Sandridge right now.
Yeah, Granary Park is actually, and I need to change it. So Granary Park, I believe, is number 2, Avalonia Hills.
Oh, so they've just changed the name.
Avonlea Hills. They changed it to Granary Park.
And then I also heard there's a lot of yard signs in my neighborhood right now, vote no against rezoning because they're wanting to put an apartment complex on one of the lakes that's to the north and the west of where you can see the lakes right there. There's
Right in
a
here.
smaller one, yeah, right up in that corner.
So Black Creek, I think it's called Black Creek Development. So, but it's actually near where the state police has all their depot off of 220. That's kind of where they want to put that. So I haven't seen anyone coming
So
through there.
there's a camp that's there now,
Mhm.
and the lake is called Lake Lark. And I'm sure that the Planning Commission has talked about it because the residents are all up in arms
Okay.
about it. I don't know when the vote is supposed to happen with the county commission or any of that, but
Was that a Methodist camp?
it was.
I believe the vote already happened, and I believe it was not allowed.
Okay.
I
all right.
believe.
And I'll
The yard
definitely-
signs are
but I'm
still
pretty
up,
close.
so.
I'll
Because
definitely,
we
I
used
know
to go
there's a,
camping at that park at that place with the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
there are a
So-
couple of, like a little, I call it pocket development that are popping up along
Right.
near Baxley,
Yep.
right on 220.
Okay.
So
No,
I'll
this one
double
was in
check.
this area specifically. but-
Clay County's really trying to bring in some of the 55-plus communities, and we had none before, but then since then, they've really been bringing a few more in.
Mhm.
So I kind of don't pay attention to them because we don't get impact fees from them, and they
Right,
don't
right.
develop kids. But
Right.
I do watch them because if they do have a kid, then we can go back after them and nail them. So,
I have one more question. I see several where homes are projected for different areas. And I know that Mirror Lake and Keystone has talked about a new subdivision with 180 homes.
yes, ma'am.
So I don't see that on there, but yet I see places with less than 180 on there.
Yeah, I'm just doing the study in Lake Asbury right here.
Okay.
That's Lake Asbury
Okay,
study.
So was that somewhere down the line?
I sat on that planning meeting last week.
Yep.
I sat right next to Mirror Lake, and we talked about that growth in that neighborhood. I've been contacted by the developer,
Okay.
and I told him he wanted to know what the multiplier was, and I told him what the multiplier was, and so I figured about 35 kids would come from there. But it's 2 years down the
But again,
road.
you have like 53 homes, 47 homes, 184 homes. So
Right.
I'm just
But-
saying,
I would include that, but again,
they
that's a
made the list. is what I'm
big
getting
number
at.
there. And this is Lake Asbury, so that's what I'm looking at right now.
And it is amazing, you drive out there, all the new growth that's going on, it's
Yeah.
scary. I mean, I'm thinking, where are we putting all these children?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, because of the site agents, Cross Creek is gonna have 1,500, and Willis Springs is.
Yeah,
does
Cross
it-
Creek originally came in at 1,000, but then
Yeah.
they bumped it up to 1,500.
And Willis Springs about 450.
A little bit, 465, I think that's where they're
And
at.
she told me the other day that the new development on 17 is gonna be 4,000.
I'm gonna talk about that one
Okay,
right now.
so I just wanna know.
That's
if-
the one that wasn't here last year, that all
Exactly.
of a sudden, whoa,
Yep.
there it is, just like that. So the total outlook for Lake Asbury as a snapshot is about this many homes and about that many kids would produce probably about 2 elementary schools. So kind of looking at a possibility of putting an elementary school right up in this corner here. I've talked to this owner, this developer, and it is Village Park, and they actually would be willing to give us a piece of land, sell us a piece of land, and we actually were able to fit the school on there. So we're kind of working on that. You'll see that, but I have to do all the preliminary work before that.
How large is the piece of property?
20 acres.
20 acres?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, this is important.
How many miles is that from Lake Asbury Elementary?
It's just down the road. So from here to here, So figure if you're at Sand Ridge and you're driving to where the road is, there's going to be a road that comes through here. I think they call it East-West number 3 or whatever. And it's going to come through and go down. And there's going to be one that's going to come over here as well. So you'll be able to cut this whole corner off by driving through this neighborhood. There's going to be a Publix right here and a couple of other big box stores too. So this is important right here. This is the interchange that's being built right now. And Reinhold is building the road from where Shadowlawn is on 218 all the way to this point. And guess who's building it from here to there? Clay County. They said, hey, we're going to go ahead and do that for you. And so the developers are like, yes. And so now that's where that big boom is coming from, because Clay County went ahead and said, we're going to build that road for you. And it's on their approved list. And this is looking at the Two Creeks area and the Tynes 5-year outlook. This one here is the Challenger Center. This is really, hasn't started to move quite yet, but they're trying to sell that. There's no numbers involved with it or anything, but this area does scare me a little bit. This is the location for School A, which is right next to the amenity center at Two Creeks. We have 20 acres there. What I wanted to say here, what does this do to Tynes? So Tynes would go over 110% capacity in school year 21-22, which it's tracking to do. Enrollment for School A would require a rezoning of this whole, look at the size of Tynes's, this is all of Tynes's attendance area. And right up in here is Cameron Oaks and a couple of others that are just, I mean, that's a long drive to go from here all the way down to here. So we're going to have to do some rezoning when School A comes along. It's going to be a little unpleasant,
They're-
but that's what we're going to have to do.
They're also opening up Cheswick Oaks.
Yes, that didn't make it it's on the lower part of the list, but it didn't make the approved thing.
Well, I know that at the end of Cheswick Oaks now,
Yeah, right
they
here.
they've started paving. They may not have approved the entire road, but there's a whole nother subdivision there.
Well, you're right. They have approved it. It's going to
And-
affect Argyle.
And it would be awesome, well,
You're a vi-
unfortunately, when they do that, it's going to blossom a bunch of other subdivisions there. But if they connect Cheswick Oaks to Oakleaf, I think they were connecting it to the Oakleaf Parkway.
Yes.
That could then alleviate some of the problems with number 4 and number 7,
So what?
and maybe shift them back to Argyle.
That's the plan. The plan is to make this road go down here and connect this road.
Right.
So you'll be able to go from for better Oakleaf all the way over to Argyle without having to go up on the corridor of death up there.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
we are expecting to open elementary A in the 24?
I'm going to
23,
get to
24,
that.
24,
I'm going to get to
25.
that schedule. There's too many numbers. I'm old, but I'll get to that point. So right now, we're in the middle of finishing an 8-room classroom wing at Tynes. Mr. David Kramer is the project manager on that, is doing a great job and is coming along very, very well. And that's going to help with alleviate some of the pressure at Tynes, but there's still so many kids there, and we're going to get rid of portables. Some of them may have to stay, unfortunately. So Tynes will grow to over 1,000 students at that point, and that's the trigger. If you guys remember, that's the trigger point for a new school, 1,000 kids. So this was last year. It was all about Governor's Park. That was the it girl. You know, Governor's Park's going to be the new Nocatee, and we're all pumped up about that. And so there, we already have 3 school sites on there. We have a K-8, a K-8, and a high school over here. And but there it was, Governor's Park, that many homes, about this many kids. Saratoga Springs, which is, here's the expressway coming through. This is Governor's Park. There's Green Cove right here. Saratoga Springs was, yeah, it's kind of out there, but it's kind of dead. Nothing's happening. Well, there's the exchange I was telling you about. And Clay County is going to make the road go from here to 17. And that's when everybody jumped on that wagon. So this is the change. Right now, it was about 4,500 homes just 2 weeks ago. I got a letter for one for 5,000 and one for 7,500. And they were ahead of the curve. They went ahead and said, hey, here's the proportional share mitigation agreement we want you to sign. So I've been reading through it, and I'm like, I'm not signing this. You guys aren't signing this, because they want to give us $1 million check. Yeah, we got to do better than that. And oh, by the way, we want credits for that. So it's like, okay, it's just a loan. So this is the guy, this one here right now, which is different from last year. It was around 4,500. Now it's 12,500, and it's going to produce this many kids.
Saratoga Springs, is that off of 315?
Yeah, right behind R,
Okay.
right behind School R.
Is that Reinhold property?
It's Reinhold and Jerry Agresti. Why you roll your eyes?
Oh, I'm not, no.
No, you're right. Those guys are smooth. But wait, there's more. And what I want to talk about, again, is that Village Park area that was up near Henley and just north of Lake Asbury, or not Lake, but Sand Lake Road. That's going to be about 2,500 kids plus the 1,200 or 12,500. So this is where this really makes me quite nervous in here. So this is just a repeat of the previous slide, but I just want to show you that for last year, we were really looking at this guy. Now we're looking at this guy. And actually, Village Park is ahead, because if you go down Henley and you look to the right-hand side, you'll see all those houses going in there. They're there now. I got an impact fee check today from the county that was almost $400,000. It was 58 permits, and a bunch of them were all in Village Park.
Can we put a timeline on when they can build? I mean, don't we have some control as a school district that doesn't have a school there? I mean, there's got to be something that.
I can do proportionate share mitigation. You guys can turn it down, but then they would go and, we've never done it, but we could take it to court or whatever you want to do from there. But it's hard to stop these guys.
We're not going to be able to keep up with this. It's
No.
just too much, too fast. And is it planning and zoning who approves this?
Yes.
Well, then there needs to be a change something
That's
needs
right.
to change.
Well, they are, of course, the planning and zoning is just an advisory board. So then they go to the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners. They're the ones that do the actual votes that count. We go and we say, hey, and we grill them and we say, if we disapprove it, it still goes to the Board of County Commission. It still goes to the BCC, and the BCC could override whatever the Planning Commission suggests. We try to help them, try to help them see the way.
I think you need to give this presentation to the BCC.
I'd be glad to. So now I want to kind of focus on Saratoga Springs, the thing that wasn't here last year. I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time. Sorry about this. So here is what I looked at. So the original DRI gave us 77 acres with no credits, which was awesome. We had no credits on 77 acres. Well, after we looked at the new numbers, 77 acres isn't enough. So that's what we're working on now. So here is the plan that I kind of showed them what I'd like to see. Here's the road that's going through, and you can see it's right at the interchange. You're going to be able to go from 218 all the way out to 17. And so they had a high school site, which was right here. That yellow was the original high school site. Well, they don't want it there because it's their front door. So we thought, okay, over here. This road here is going to connect Sand Ridge to this, and it's called Feed Mill Road. And that is on the plan, but not on the county's plan. So the developer would have to build this. So what I'm throwing out there is a high school, and next to it, a K-8 on the same property. That's what I throw out there.
How many acres is that? How many acres would we need for that?
So the acreage for that, I believe it was 60 for the high school and 30 for the junior, or for the K-8.
And they're donating the land?
77 of that is already in the books, and they'll put it anywhere we want it. And the good thing about it is there's no credits. So that is a true donation. So there's School R, which is coming online. And then I was thinking, as we looked at this, we would need another school out here. And this is the Creekview one that I was talking about up in here. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's R5. They're down the road a piece. So this is what you were asking about earlier. You wanted to see the progression. And so from 21 to 22, the first 5 years, we have R, and we're asking, A right now isn't approved, it's there. This is the only one that's approved, just that one. And this changes every year. If you were to look at last year's, it looks very different than this. And so this is the Two Creeks area up by Tynes. This one here is the one that I was showing you up in the crook of the, where the expressway is coming through. This would be the high school and the K-8 together in the 27-28 timeframe. And then we move down to Governor's Park because they'll be building down at the Nocatee West by that time. And these figures, these numbers look low because they don't include legal fees, furniture, site improvement costs, architect fees, and such like
Is
that.
this all the growth that you're anticipating over the next, however many years?
Yes, out to 20 years.
So I am concerned that there's nothing for the south end. I mean, you just showed us the projections for McRae. It's just as bad as Keystone.
It's relative. I mean, it moves along, but it's still under that 110%. So here's the growth right now. And if you look at this, here is the expressway. And these are all the developments. And you can see they're tracking right along the expressway. These are all the known developments that have been approved, have gone to DRC, that have gone before the Planning Commission, and they're approved. This is Clay County over here, and this area represents that. So I just took this area and blew it up, and here it is in here. Now, I don't show the one in Keystone because it hasn't gone, it's only gone to the Planning Commission, and they haven't taken it to the Planning and Zoning Board, which is going, I think, on the 25th of next month, which I'll be attending. So once that goes on there, I'll put that on there as well.
And isn't it two developments? One's 180 homes and the other 70-something homes?
Just one.
Didn't
She-
Mayor Lake told us about two?
I
when
was,
she was
we
here
were at
that
the
night.
Planning Commission. I was sitting right next to Mayor Lake when they got up before it, and that was the
But
only one.
she says that other one is in the works, so I'm just
Yes,
telling.
ma'am.
Yeah. She
Yes, ma'am.
presented too, the night she
She
came and
did.
presented that resolution to the school board.
I just went to the planning body meeting, and that's the only one that was brought by a
Would
by a
you follow
developer.
up and see if there
Yes,
is a
ma'am.
second one?
Yep.
Thank you. Wait, before we go on, what's our plan for our junior high property over here on Fleming Island?
You know, I can't. If we were to build a junior high there, it would decimate Green Cove and decimate Lakeside. Just right, just as a junior high.
What about a K-8 though? If
I
we did a
have-
K-8, it would help alleviate, you
I've
know,
asked to do a plan for that, but really what it would do would be, I mean, it would do something for Patterson, but we're taking care of Patterson already with R.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have to be pulling kids from Thunderbolt because it's an island. And
Well-
it's so hard to pull things around.
What will
I'll be glad to
Patterson-
show that to you.
what
if
will
you want to see.
Patterson's capacity be after the?
Well, the capacity won't
elementary
change.
R.
It's just that the attendance will go down so that you'll be in, and I'm guessing right now. I
So
don't
we
know
won't
what
be
it is.
redistricting any kids out of Patterson to the new school?
Unless you want to.
Well, I thought that one development on 315 you had talked about.
Well, the ones to the south
Right.
will be redistricted
they'll come out of
across the street. Yeah,
Patterson.
that would
So-
make sense. So those kids right now come all the way up 17.
So
So
that
they'd
was
be
my
looking at
question.
the school, right, and they would go across the street. It'll relieve Patterson
Right,
for
like
that.
how many students? 180, did you say?
No, it's more than that,
More
but
than that.
I'll get those numbers to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Pending any questions that's the end of my brief.
I would just like to comment that I'd be willing to bet because Green Cove is so close to the new bridge. We're going to see far more growth on the Green Cove.
Well, you
area,
know,
which we know.
A Shire PUD just came in place, 1,800 units. I didn't even show that one
Yeah, because I'm already hearing about it.
because I sat down with D.R. Horton and talked to them about that as well.
So,
And how far out are
1,800
they
homes.
projected?
They're ready to go now.
yeah.
They're ready to
they've
start
got the
knocking
money
trees
to
down
go,
now.
Unlike the other builders. The other builders are doing 2 to 4 contracts a month.
Could they
Yeah.
just build the school for us? We could keep up then.
Yeah.
They should
Well, their big push right now is because Green Cove is trying to annex that area so they can get taxes for it. So that's kind of the slowdown right now.
Oh.
They're probably going to get it. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fossa. He does a great job for us. It's a lot of information.
He put us in a really good mood.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Miss Ellis, you gotta follow that.
That's all right. Okay, so I'm just going to discuss capital revenue sources, and Ms. Legutko's kind of a repeat of what she kind of went over, but we'll get to it. So these are our capital revenue sources, and you've seen them all before. If you look on page 17, it has a description of all of them and what they can be used for. This is our projected revenue, and again, this is tentative, so this is going to change from now to September. So what we have right now in this tentative document, this is a working document. We can change stuff before the September board meeting. But this is what we're projected to receive in all those fund sources.
Now, I have a question,
Mhm.
sorry, here we
No.
go. Dr. Legutko, she has a dollar amount up there for gas tax of $46,500, but you didn't have that in your budget. That was one I noticed, it was zero. It was PICO dollars followed by gas tax, which were both zero.
The 46,500, it's probably was in my miscellaneous. And again, I don't actually know how much I'm going to get. So probably between now and September, I may change my presentation to confirm with hers, but my gas tax isn't, it's not a lot as far as the dollar. So I would probably recognize it under my miscellaneous. It's
Okay.
not an item that I have to recognize under a specific number
Right.
in my budget.
But you did, you had a line for gas tax that had nothing across it. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
You had PICO dollars,
Right.
and then you had zero for PICO dollars, and then you had your gas tax, and it was zero
Yeah.
all the way across for that. That's the only reason I'm asking is
Okay.
because.
Right.
We'll-
And again,
we'll
it
get-
may have been lumped into my
I-
miscellaneous.
It's
know
a
it's
very,
not a
we're
lot
not
of
allowed to
money.
use it
Right.
on
Yeah.
a lot of things. It can only be used on a right-of-way, a sidewalk in between
Right.
city and our property right-of-way. So a lot of times we that just kind of, and that rolls and that builds up, and we just kind of wait until we can use it for something like that.
Thank you, thank you.
So here's our district expenditures, and that is in your sheet on page 20, if you wanted to get a better view. But those are all the expenditures we have, and those are the COPS, the district-wide equipment, property and casualty, technology, maintenance, facility planning, salaries, and then our transportation department, which Mr. Darrell Sweat will speak to in a minute. So that comes to 14 million, and that comes out of our capital expenditures before any of our projects. So you guys do have a list of the EFP plan. It's several pages. I didn't put any of that up here on the slides, but just to give you an idea of what we do with our capital dollars, and it's similar to what we've done last year. But I just kind of wanted to show you a list of what we accomplished in the last year and the different schools and the number. So you can see a lot of HVAC controls, roof repair replacement. Front office, single point of entry, safety and security has been a big issue, as you guys keep hearing about. So we've received grants for those types of projects, and we really worked on those and knocked those out. Security cameras, security fencing, again, the safety was a big issue, big topic this year. Just more projects, more things we've done across the county. And then I do have some pictures to share with you because I thought it'd be nice. This was actually the agriculture barn at Middleburg High School. This was a joint effort with CTE. It was some of their money, and worked on building them a larger barn there. And we hope to continue building these at all the high schools. This was kind of their pilot program. We kind of worked out the bugs with it. So we'll do more of these around the county.
And I actually sponsored a pig of somebody who
Oh,
at
good, very
Middleburg High
good.
School, and I'm enjoying the sausage.
Oh, no.
I know that sounds terrible, but that young man is so excited with the barn. It's clean.
It's very
It's easy to
nice.
maintain. That school is thrilled with it. So we did, and they raised a lot of the funds. CTE.
They
yeah,
did.
raised the funds
CTE
for it.
raised funds.
They did a great job.
And with maintenance and facilities all working together, we helped each other out to put that together. So that was kind of a fun
And I'm just
one I
going to put
wanted
a plug,
share.
but I think everybody should sponsor a pig. It's a lot of fun for the fair.
Yes.
And you can watch the kids. The competition is amazing. The kids do a wonderful job, and it's such
They
a
do.
discipline, and really very impressive.
Don't name the pig, though, because then it's a pet and not.
Oh, they
Dinner.
do, yeah, but they all know. I won't name it, but
Talking about those security, single point of entry, here's several of our schools. We have a bunch more I can share with you at the September board meeting. There's a lot, I think 7 or 8 that we're doing this summer, and we should be complete with all of them. So just trying to show you in the bottom right-hand corner is the title of the school, but again, just trying to do the single point of entry. And again, it's not going to necessarily stop someone, but it will slow them down, and that's our intent, to get the people at the front desk to safety and to call for help. Again, just some more, Ridgeview, Wilkinson, you can see, and I'll share more pictures at the September meeting. And then actually, there was a leak. There was a spot under Orange Park High's basketball court, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and they took off this one section and got rid of the water and repaired that. But then it was okay, well, we're going to repair this, and then the rest of the floor is not going to look the same. So it turned into to do it right, we need to refinish the floor and repaint it. So that was kind of something nice that happened for Orange Park High.
well, I think they had been Band-Aiding that too. 'Cause
It was,
that
yes,
had been
it was
ongoing for a
something that
while.
was, yes, it
Right.
was. And that's an old facility there.
We were sitting there for one of the plays, and that's a pretty powerful air conditioner.
Yeah, it came
unit.
on
Oh, good.
Not
That's
in a
the
good
new
way.
one.
It was
loud.
extremely loud.
Oh,
Something needed to be.
oh wait, in the cafeteria?
Oh, that was the cafeteria, that's right.
Yes,
that
we
was
do
cafeteria.
have that on our
Right.
EFP
The
plan
cafeteria
for
was-
the sound, yes.
Loud.
Yeah,
I mentioned that to her right the next day.
I did too.
And,
It's on- we put
and
it
I
on our
saw that
plan.
on the list when I thought, good, and a new ceiling as well.
Yes.
Which is awesome because, and I'm hoping that you talk with the people in the drama program, because the tiles definitely do have an
The
impact
acoustics, yeah.
on the
Yeah.
acoustics for the students
Sure.
speaking and stuff. Plus,
Right.
they also need a new sound system, so if you're just going to add it up, just keep
Yes,
going with it.
yes. These are fun projects too. I mean, the air conditioner projects aren't fun pictures to look at, but I wanted to show you kind of with the restrooms what we're planning to do, and we have a lot of restrooms on our project list. But here's a before and after, and obviously that was, when they took the toilets out and the partitions. But just to show you, the floor and the walls, and then the final product on the right, and that's Middleburg High School. And we had a shortened summer because of COVID. I mean, it was only a week shorter, but we'll take all the time we can get when we're trying to get in there when the kids are gone. So we did 3 of the group restrooms around Middleburg High School, and we will have to come back another summer to complete those. But we're trying to spread it out and do several of these restroom renovations all over the county.
Now, if we could just upgrade the toilet paper. Did anybody get complaints about the toilet paper? I'm
They're probably
serious.
just grateful they have it.
I know. We
Yeah.
could get a CVS receipt.
But, so those are I just wanted to share with you kind of some things that we've done and similar projects that are going to be on the project list in the packet. So unless there's any specific questions about projects in the packet.
Well, we know that this is a living document and it
Yes.
gets changed. So if something comes up that we as a board want to see changed.
Yes, and we can bring this back at any time and have it amended.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I will introduce
Mr. Darrell Sweat in transportation, he does a great job for us too. It's, I don't envy his job.
Before Mr. Sweat goes, can Dr. Legecko answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
She's over here like, me.
Well, I wanted a point of clarification. If you go to the budget book on page 34, it's there, it's the 46.5, and like I said, it's under miscellaneous. I will move it up to the gas tax refund. It's a misclassification, so I will move it up there. Page 34.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. So I've got a couple of slides just going over our 5-year plan and what we're trying to do with the radios and GPS, and I think for the most part, everybody's updated. Let me go here. So I'm going to show you a couple of tables, and I think you're probably familiar with them. It just shows the growth, and trying to predict the growth, it's been kind of hard because we just got so many buses. So right now, we're in great shape. As far as our buses go, we have 240, and so after this year, I'm going to really be able to project a little bit better. But right now, we're in great shape. We'll use probably about 200 of them this year, maybe more. I mean, kids are coming. This will be our highest number of students that we transport will be this year. I mean, everybody, they're just coming in, from every neighborhood now, so, which is a good thing. So the growth is back. But the real plan.
Do we have enough bus drivers? How are you doing with bus drivers?
No, we don't have enough bus drivers, but we're doing very well. The momentum's going a lot better. We can't do anything different. We've got new buses. We compensate them better. We provide every tool we can to make the job good. It's just getting them through the system with the CDL and things like that. We've hired 12 drivers this summer, which is good. And we have about 3 or 4 more that are going to be right after school starts, but we're still got 11 routes that'll be open. So, but they're smaller, and so we're working around it to combine a couple of them and do different things where it won't impact us as much. And we're going to hire all year. So,
Mr. Broski's brother is retired, and maybe he'd like to come down. Brother-in-law. Yeah, let's see if he's interested.
Bob, if you're listening out there, Florida is a very nice place to live.
Do you have a guest room for him?
Matter of fact, yes, living accommodations come with the package.
you don't even have to interview.
Trying to
He's
help
hired
out.
over the.
Well, with the shortage that we have, how many schools will we have to look at double backs? Because that is a concern.
Well, we're trying to put it where we double up and we look to add students on buses where we got room. So the double backs we want to stay away from, but double up and getting more efficient with the routes to do it. Fill up the buses and put bigger buses at schools. So we're trying to not do any double backs. So. We've got to do a lot of workarounds, but that's behind the scenes. So if we have to double up or change a route a certain way, the schools don't know. They're going to go with, but we have to do some managing on our end. It's a lot of work, but the more we hire, the more it's going to get easier, but we're still at the mercy of who calls in every day, things like that. So we're always going to fight against it, but we're just going to keep hiring and keep hiring and keep hiring. So, but I mean, we can't, like I said, we can't do anything else. We pay them for their training. We pay well. We got great buses. We're doing the right things. It's just getting the people to come in. So,
Thank you.
So this goes over the GPS softwares at the bottom where we just completed that. So they're coming in starting next week and putting in the new 4G tablets, which is going to help us incredibly with latency and how they respond back and forth from dispatch and the back office. So. We're excited about that. So they're bringing a team in to replace all the old tablets with the new tablets. So that's coming. And then I did put a little bit of the ESC growth in the next couple of years because we have a lot of ESC students, and so that continues to grow. So there may be a small need for that. So I wanted to project a little bit, but again, after this year, with all the growth in the county, we'll have a real number how we're growing and kind of pace it. So right now, we're in great shape as far as buses. We just need bus drivers. So.
And are you training them on the new tablets?
Yes, and the tablets are very similar to the old ones, but they're actually easier, more user-friendly, things like that. We don't have to sync the system every time to get the updates, which was kind of a problem. Nobody wanted to sync it. So, but yeah, we'll do a full training, make sure everybody understands how to use them. This table actually just goes through a little bit more of the detail on the growth and projections. It just gives you an idea on inventory. Again, we have a we have a really new fleet, so we have 240 really new buses. And so it's like, based on last year, it was hard to predict based on, we just didn't have a good growth pattern. But like I said, after this year, we will. But we're in great shape as far as having enough buses. So, like I said, the 5 ESC buses the next couple of years is just a projection based on how many students. We have a lot of ESC students, so you can't put as many students on those buses. That's what it comes down to. I think that's it. Do you have any questions? So we're working hard over there. We have in-service, and you are welcome to come out the first day of school, hold up the signs. And so I know Ms. Bolo will be there. So anyway, no questions?
Have you had luck with getting new dispatchers then?
Well, we had supposedly 2 were going to retire. Well, 1 ended up retiring, and the other one stayed. It was like a gift. And she's our morning dispatcher. She's a rock star, so we're thankful for that. So she has to leave in April. So we're going to ramp up and try to get somebody trained and, kind of do it the right way as a shadow thing where we're prepared in April. But, God bless us, we needed her to stay. So we have 1 new one and 1 experienced one, so we'll be in a lot better shape, so.
And can you explain to me, because I know you've had to change it, as far as when you hire a new bus driver, you're paying for the CDL, and sometimes we talked about bonuses. I mean, what are we doing to keep them from going to Amazon or some other higher paying facility?
Right, so, and we don't have a lot of that, but what we do different from when I started years ago was we pay them for their training. There's a lot of commitment, so we found that when they get their permit, that they start coming in on Monday and Friday because they have their other job, and it takes them 4 months to get their CDL. So we decided to put all that bonus money, because we gave them a $1,000 bonus, $500 when they started, and then after 90 working days, they got the other $500. 90 working days is a long time, so it was kind of like they had to wait almost a school year, So we put all that money together and used it up front for their training. So we started training better. They were better prepared. We went, it's getting so, the state requires so much now. You need that 3 weeks, and we pay them for 3 weeks. And at the end of that 3 weeks, they test for their CDL. If they don't pass, we can't pay them anymore, but they can continue to take the test. So it's kind of, that's the way it works. And they are committed to, if we get them to help them get the CDL. I've only had 1 person that had to leave right after they got the CDL. And he was a minister, and got his dream job at a prison or something, and he paid everything back that he was supposed to. So it was pretty remarkable. But so we've got a better plan, the structure on how we get people in. We hold their hand, but they've got to put some effort into it as well. So, is there any other questions? All right, thank you.
The patience of Job, right there, being able to handle all of that. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Hang on. I apologize. I lost my place. Here we are. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the tentative 2021-22 through the 2025-26 educational facilities plan.
So moved?
Ms. Gilhousen moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Clark seconded it. Discussion.
I just want to reiterate what Bryce said, with Ms. Ellis said that it's a kind of a living document. It's a tentative plan, so kind of a work in progress as things change and are needed. Thank you.
Fluid document, absolutely. Any other comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Or is it manual?
I'm looking at the computer, and we can vote right now.
Not on mine.
Still not on yours?
No.
Okay. Could you vote for Ms. Clark? Thank you. Next, we're going to discuss the 2021-2022 mental health assistance allocation plan. Mr. Broski, if you would give us a
So
comment
just as a
about
quick
that.
overview as to what this item is, and, each year under the statute, we have to submit a plan to the state, has to be board approved. No doubt, the use of mental health services is extremely important. It's taken on even greater importance as time has gone on to where we are now. This particular plan expands youth mental health first aid. It expands the number of mental health counselors that are available out there. It also expands transition services for students, particularly in 7th and 9th grade, as they're transitioning from elementary to junior high and as they transition into high school. So that's the basic crux of the plan.
I'll hear a motion for the 2021-2022 mental health assistance allocation plan.
Also moved.
Approval.
Ms. Bullock moved
I'll
and Ms.
second.
Kirkus seconded it. Thank you. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. There were no questions given to me from the audience. And Mr. Broski, do you have any further comments?
Now, just very quickly, I'm always amazed at the wonderful people we have working within our school system. I give kudos to Bryce and her team and the presentation both last night and today relative to the EFP in our facilities. Also, all staff and the preparation for this school year. In challenging times, people rise to the top, and we have a bunch of people within our district that have done a wonderful job. I'm looking forward to Monday when teachers come back. It's always exciting. There's always a little bit of a knot, in my stomach. All 31 years I've had that same knot. And then, of course, the big day, the day that the students arrive, and looking forward to that also.
Mr. Bickner, any comments? Ms. Clark?
I just want to reiterate, we were at Keystone last night, and I think Bryce Ellis did a wonderful presentation and her whole team. And obviously, as Ms. Bullock mentioned, a little contentious periodically, but it's obviously we all care. There's none of us that don't. And we just have to do the right thing for all the students, so.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Kirkus?
Well, we're looking forward to the start of another school year and hope everybody comes back ready to learn and ready to start. My concern is, we may have to revisit our mask policy. And I'd like to ask the superintendent and Ms. Dennis to please get with the health department and see what their latest recommendation is, because I know we're going to follow the lead of the health department. If numbers continue to climb like they are, I think it's something we're going to have to, at least I feel strongly that we might have to look at. So I'd like to be updated on, where we are with that. And that's about it. Thank you. And thank you to the teams who presented today, Dr. Legutko, Ms. Ellis and her team, and for presenting last night, too. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bullock?
And I'd just like to reiterate what Ms. Kirkus said, because, under 12, they're not able to be vaccinated, so that's a concern, and I'm sure the health department probably has some guidelines that we need to look at. And again, I would just wish our students and our staff a great start of the year, because it's a lot going on, and I don't think many of them had much time off. It seems like I've seen cars at just about every school throughout the summer, so anyway, thank you.
Ms. Gilhausen?
I believe we have guidance from the state, don't we, on face mask policies? Didn't we have an announcement from the governor and the Commissioner of Education at the start of the summer that we're not to have face mask mandates?
The governor's comment was that he does not recommend face masks be mandatory, as well as the Commissioner of Education. Both of those went on the record.
Okay, that was my understanding as well.
I would like to add, though, that was back in the end of June.
Right.
So we've had a lot change in the last month, and I'm asking staff to just keep us abreast of what the recommendations will be.
Nothing for me.
Thank you. Yes, last night at Keystone Heights, a shout out to all of the teachers and the staff members that showed up. And the presentation was awesome, Bryce. Thank you very much. I should say Miss Ellis, sorry. And Mr. Fawcett, the conversations following the presentation were most helpful as well, to be able to understand and truly come up with some unique, I heard other ideas that were unique to what we had been talking about. So as this all progresses, and with this fluid document, you're absolutely right, this is a fluid document. And as we progress, being able to help with that. The health department, I'm certain, will be working with us closely for the masks, and they have up to this point, and we appreciate Heather Hoffman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the presentations today. They were awesome. Dr. Legutko, you always knock it out of the park. You scare us a little bit. We know that you know how to say no, and we appreciate that. A reminder to everyone, we do another school board meeting coming up. It seems like we keep meeting. So we have another one coming up before the school year starts, but to the teachers who are coming back on Monday, thank you for your passion for education and for caring so much about the children that we serve. And on that note, the meeting is adjourned.